The Marine Toys for Tots foster care program is bringing hope to children who need it most. Every 2 minutes, a child enters foster care, often with only a small bag of belongings. More than 400,000 children face trauma and uncertainty, many before age 8. This May, during Foster Care Awareness Month, Toys for Tots is creating Room for Joy. In 2025, nearly 375,000 children received comfort through toys, books, and essentials, reminding them they are not alone. Donate now and change a child's life.
This is the Cats Roundtable with John Catsimatidis.
Everywhere around the world, they come to America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come to America.
Good morning, America. This is the Cats Roundtable. John Catsimatidis here. We have Congressman Tim Burchett to tell us what the heck is going on with those UFO disclosures. Senator Kevin Cramer from the state of North Dakota, Dr. Peter Michalos, Live Long and Prosper, a new segment, Lou Katzos, What's This Day in History? General Valle, he's got a good perspective on how things are. Stacey Garrity, she's running for governor in Pennsylvania against Josh Shapiro. Lynn Shaw about taking care of our kids. And on Mother's Day, we have Dr. Alveda King to give us a little bit of what Mother's Day is all about. And let's start off with Newt Gingrich, the former speaker. With us today is Speaker Gingrich. Speaker Newt Gingrich, give us your evaluation on a long weekend.
Well, I think the biggest thing in the near future is President Trump's visit to Beijing. This is a real, I think, crossroads, and the Xi Jinping is going to have to think about whether he wants to continue to try to compete with us or whether he wants to cooperate with us. And I just noticed that yesterday, for example, they announced that 2 former defense ministers were both given death sentences, which have been suspended for 2 years, but as a signal. Now, remember, these are guys who are in the military, and it's a signal of the degree to which Xi Jinping is unhappy with the performance of the military. And, of course, every time you turn around, Chinese weapon systems are failing. So they couldn't protect Venezuela. They can't protect Iran. They don't do much good in Russia. And so I think suddenly his dream that he could somehow take us on and occupy Taiwan, I think he's having to reassess everything. At the same time, their population is starting to drop because of their one-child policy, and they're going to go down from about 1.4 billion to maybe as low as 600 or 700 million by the end of the century. And that means they don't have many young people. China is a country in transition, and President Trump will be visiting it at a moment when it could lead to a truly remarkable breakthrough, and that's what we should hope for. It'll be historic and will reshape a great deal of what's happening around the world.
What do you think is the next step?
The president can't move on until Iran is resolved one way or another. I think his hope is that the sheer pressure, in some ways the Department of the Treasury is more important than the Department of War, because they are cutting off money at such a level that the Iranian government may literally not be able to function in a matter of a couple of weeks. And so the guys who are hardliners, who are very tough, who understand warfare and they understand taking casualties, but if they end up having literally no money and they can't pay their troops and they can't sustain what they're doing, they may conclude that they have to agree to a deal that they don't like because the alternative is breaking the entire regime. And I think that's what Trump is counting on. And I think his hope is that over the long run, the Iranian people will take power back because this government will have been so dramatically weakened by us.
The New York Times did an article on Friday morning saying that we're running low on armaments. Okay. You see, yeah. My English was not my first language. Any opinion on that? Because
there are 2 things wrong. One, we build exquisitely, amazingly advanced weapons, and they're very expensive. And so normally we have relatively limited stocks. of how many, and we've been using them up, both giving them to the Europeans to give to the Ukrainians, and then using a lot of them up against Iran. There are two problems. One is to expand production, which we're doing, but the other is use common sense and use less expensive weapons. The Ukrainians are now building 1 million drones a year, and they're very sophisticated drones. They're hitting places in Russia 1,200 or 1,300 miles away. They're tearing up the Russian oil industry. They also have defensive drones. They build drones for like $2,000. We build Patriot missiles for $7 or $8 or $9 million. Well, if you're using a $9 million missile to kill a $200 drone, I mean, look, John, if somebody walked into you and said, I got this great idea, I'm going to spend $9 million to kill a $200 million missile, you'd immediately know that's so stupid. You wouldn't know why you're having the conversation. And so they've got to go through a real transition. They're beginning to buy a lot more drones, for one thing. But there's no question in the short run we're going to have a shortage. If the Chinese were willing to take gigantic risk, they could decide this was the moment to test us. Because, frankly, we'll be able to scrape together enough stuff for Iran, but in the process, we're moving things out of everywhere else in the world. But that was a decision we made a long time ago. We used to have a policy to be able to fight two major wars at the same time. We gave that up as too expensive. So now you have the consequence. We're able to fight one pretty significant war at a time, and we're going to have to rebuild our industrial base to be able to do more than that.
The new wars is that people don't realize it yet. We're never going to send troops in again because the Department of Defense or the Pentagon, whoever it may be, they're preparing soldiers that are robots. So is that going to be the new warfare, drones and robots? And they're working on underwater drones.
Yeah, there's a development. I think it's called. I probably have the wrong title. It's called the Ghost Shark, which is being built for Australia, which is an unmanned submarine, which means you don't have to have oxygen, you don't have to have space, you don't have to have a commissary or a kitchen, and then that submarine carries a large number of torpedoes. It can go out about 2,000 miles by itself in an unmanned setting, and it's the beginning of a different world. If you look at the Ukrainians carefully, they are now, I think, 80% of the casualties that they're imposing on the Russians come from drones. They have really saved a lot of Ukrainian lives because they back their troops out. We used to have this rule in World War II. The slogan was, send a bullet, not a body. And we would go into an area and use a huge amount of artillery fire and a huge amount of tank fire, but we would minimize the risk to Americans. And I think what you're seeing now is the combination of artificial intelligence, space-based assets, and devices like drones that are going to revolutionize warfare in ways we can't even quite imagine yet.
And we're going to end it on this. The other item is the real purpose for Space Force and how they're going to be used, and nobody talks about that yet.
That's right. And that, frankly, worries the Air Force and the Navy because there are a lot of things you could do from space that you wouldn't necessarily have a manned airplane doing.
Thank you so much for coming on, and let's talk again real soon.
Great. Always good to talk to you, John.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Congressman Timothy Burchett from the state of Tennessee. On Friday, President Trump has promised more information on aliens. And I'm not talking about aliens from Mexico. I'm talking about possibly aliens from beyond the world. Well, Congressman, are we smarter today than we were on Thursday?
I don't know if we're smarter today, but we're more informed, and I think more people are going to start asking questions. But what you have to really, what I'm excited about is we have a president that kept his word, and it thinks that he's not the overlord of the American people, can decide what information we can have. And it's from what I understand, it's the deep state as well as I do. It's just a fist fight to get this stuff out. Now, the first batch of articles and classified videos and things are out, and there's going to be a lot more. But it's going to be tough to get it out because these departments don't like us having this information for whatever reason.
They're putting out more enough for President Trump to be happy that he's put something out, but not enough to let us know what really is going on. Is that a good way to say it?
That's a good way, but it's just because this is just the first round. He's got his top people working on it, and again, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, and people are going to demand more. And you're talking about stuff that our Apollo moon people spotted on the moon, something out there, and we've got instances where FBI agents have witnessed things. So that's going to be coming out as well. So I'm looking forward to all of it.
When do you think we'll get more? Was there a promise that will be in a month from now, 6 months from now,
No,
a year from now?
I have no earthly idea. I haven't. I was just kind of told what was coming out today, on Friday, and the president kept his word. You know, the first time they were going to release some stuff, you remember, they delayed it, and then what came out was just a redacted piece of Swiss cheese that had a bunch of holes in it and white it out and gave very little information. Trump has kept his word. He's the first president to do this, so I'm very excited of where we're headed with this thing. I really am, because more people are asking questions, more people in Congress. I mean, I've got bullies that always in Congress say something smart aleck to me, but the real question is, as taxpayers, what the heck are we spending tens of millions of dollars on? And if they don't exist, why have they pushed so hard for the last years to keep it undercover?
I understand that. I mean, this goes back to Eisenhower days and the decisions that Eisenhower made, and they were made a long time before us. And I'm not sure we're ever going to know the truth, but we'll go day by day.
Yes, sir. But what's going to have to happen is if somebody's going to have to walk out of one of those labs with undeniable proof before they're allowed to commit suicide by shooting themselves in the back of the head 10 times.
Anything else you want to tell the American people?
No, happy Mother's Day. I miss my mama very much. I'm 61 years old, and when I go to her grave, I still cry because there's nothing like a mama. I
miss my mom a long time, too, and may all moms out there, and may they all be appreciated. And you know, the best present we can give our moms today is to make sure their children and grandchildren are safe in the future. Yes, sir. Nice talking to you, and we'll talk again real soon. Thank you, John. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break.
Roger Stone here. Every day you wait, your money loses value, but gold and silver don't follow those same rules. American Sovereign Bullion gives you access to a nationwide wholesaler network, helping you secure aggressive pricing on real physical metals. Call 844-272-2428 now to get your free gold and silver guide to learn how to protect your wealth with physical gold and silver, delivered right to your door or with a gold IRA. Visit asbgold.com. That's asbgold.com for your free gold and silver guide today.
Best gift ever!
A Lego set is a gift that always clicks. And clicks.
Woo! Next level!
And clicks. For kids who love gaming, choose a Lego set. The gift that always clicks.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Komm du Nosk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. with us today, calling in from the state of North Dakota, Senator Kevin Kramer. Well, Senator, today is Mother's Day. What is the best present a mother can get on Mother's Day?
Well, John, that's actually a great question for the times, because one of the things that polls over the years and the decades have consistently shown is that for the mothers of America, the thing they want more than anything is a sense of safety and security for them and their families and their children especially, and grandchildren. Consistently polls ahead of things like taxes and inflation and all kinds of quality of life issues. At the end of the day, they really want to feel safe and secure. And that, oftentimes we think of that and we think, well, yeah, they want good police departments. They want gangs off the streets. They want their kids to be able to go to school and be safe. But I think what happens with safety and security when you measure it, a lot of it has to do with how safe they feel more than maybe even how safe they are. And with all of the things going on in the world today, with conflict in the Middle East, of course, with Iran and Israel and the United States, with war in Europe with Ukraine and Russia, for the most part, while the world's a dangerous place and we always need to acknowledge that, I think moms today are feeling at least more safe and secure than they have for quite a while.
Safety, that's the best present you can give a mother. And I spoke to a lady before, and I said, well, for those mothers that don't have children, let them respect their mother, because they would not be here today if it wasn't for their mother.
There you go. We all have one. And like some of us, of course, our mothers are gone, have departed this earth, but they're always in our hearts and our memories, and most importantly, they're in our culture. And yes, we think about them. We're grateful for moms, obviously, and for those people who maybe don't have a family or don't have children, I think even at that, women who nurture, women who take care of their communities, who work. They're all a mother to somebody, whether they're a biological mother or an adopted mother, or just an important symbol of motherhood to somebody. So the other thing on a day like this, I think about is the many mothers in America who have sons and daughters that serve in our military. And I would say with what's gone on lately, we always know that there's a risk involved with maintaining freedom in the world. But boy, aren't we glad that the sons and daughters of the United States are part of the most powerful and smart and capable military in the history of the world, and only getting better. So we think about those children, and we think about the moms that are serving these days with their children either with them at a base somewhere, or if they're deployed, they're back home. And we certainly say a special prayer for those moms that are serving not only their family, but serving our country.
And Senator, I mean, I understand that President Trump is meeting with President Xi of China, and I'm hopeful that the two of them want to create a more peaceful world and better economics for both of them.
When you think about that historic trip that's coming up, the fact that these two men who clearly lead the two superpowers, that certainly the economic superpowers of the world, while the United States is only 5% of the world's population, we're 25% of the world's economy, you're 20% plus. Of course, China is 1.5 billion people that eat and they consume, and they too love peace. While there's plenty of things that we fight about, and they're legitimate things, and we need to always remember that about China, that they are a controlled economy by a communist leader who has a dictator's heart. But both leaders want the same thing at the end of the day, and that is for their community, their countries, their people to be safe and secure. And I think this is a historic moment, John, and it's another one of those symbolic things that moms across the country can watch and say, I feel better about this now. I feel better about our world. I feel better that we are forming a stronger economic alliance with an enemy. And when you look even beyond that, look back at the Middle East. Besides the bombing and the kinetic war that's been going on, or the skirmish, and now Donald Trump's got it down to a love tap. with our arch enemy, Iran, what you see happening is the rest of the Arab world is getting more comfortable with the idea that Iran will not be a nuclear power and that Iran will not be the bully in the neighborhood, and they feel more comfortable having peaceful economic relationships with the United States, with Israel, and the more the Abraham Accords that get spread out among more countries. I think of Saudi Arabia especially. When those dominoes start to topple, you're going to have economic friendships. I always say if you're doing business with somebody, there's a good chance you're not shooting them. And if they're a customer or they're a supplier, there's a good chance you're probably not fighting them, but rather working and collaborating with them. And so I think you're exactly right. I think this Mother's Day, moms can take some personal peace knowing that the country and the world are becoming safer places.
Senator Mike Kramer, North Dakota, thank you so
right,
much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the Mother's Day weekend.
You too. Thank you. And thank you to all the mothers in America that are listening today.
Thank you.
The Cats Roundtable.
We got Major General Paul E. Vallely with us, a West Point graduate. General, you've been around for a while, and we're worried about history repeating itself. And I've had, I don't know if you know my friend who was Assistant Secretary of the Air Force, a West Pointer, Ty McCoy on, and he is scared that history is repeating himself. And so I'd like to have your point of view of what the heck is going on, and why is France, who got destroyed in every war, and Germany going against NATO and helping our country?
Well, history is not repeating itself. It's new history that's being created by President Trump in trying to eliminate a lot of evil in the world. And now we can see what's happening with the success in Iraq. His next focus is the Western Hemisphere. We've done Venezuela already. Cuba will be next after we finish off in the Persian Gulf.
Yes, President Trump, who I know for 45, 50 years, he's doing a great job keeping the free world free. And I still don't know. And we're spending almost $1 trillion on NATO. Germany's only spending $95 billion on NATO. And France is, I think, it's $50 or $60 billion on NATO. And why are we protecting them when they don't even want to protect themselves?
Well, what's happening is a disintegration of NATO. It's going to go away. There's no use for it anymore. As you mentioned, those countries don't support it as they should. The critical thing for the United States in those countries over there are our air bases that we have that we put a lot of money into, especially in Germany. Also, our largest overseas hospital is at Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany, which we like to keep. But other than that, NATO is history as far as I'm concerned. The reason for NATO was the counter Russia. But Russia's not going to attack Europe for sure. And I've had great.
They can't even attack Ukraine.
Well, they have. They've won the war. The war on the ground is lost. They're shooting drones still, but basically, Russia will keep the 4 eastern provinces and control of the sea there for sure. But Ukraine's, they've lost, 15 to 20 million people have left Ukraine. And so they should be focusing on settling something with Putin and rebuilding their country, and that's what they need to do.
And so you see the eventual breakup of NATO. I mean, I think President Trump is right that we don't mind contributing to NATO, but everybody has to contribute equally.
Sure they do. But why have them? What's the reason? Why would you keep such an expensive organization and fund it? What's the end game? Counter Russia? No, Russia's not going to attack Europe. So it's a waste of money, creates a lot of jobs over there, puts a lot of money into the pockets over there. What would they pay for that building over there for NATO? I think over $1 billion for their headquarters. So it's a gigantic bureaucracy. Plus, they have no leadership in Europe right now, none whatsoever. They're all weak. I mean, you see the demise of Great Britain, France, what's happening in the other countries there. It's just they're at a complete demise. I don't believe we should fund them anymore, other than what we can do to negotiate our existing airfields, Air Force bases there.
Well, Major General Paul Vallely, did I say it right? Vallely.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you for your input, and I look forward to talking to you more in the near future.
Sounds good, John. Appreciate the invitation.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break.
In business, the best days are when priorities stay on track. For mid-size and large companies, that means managing multiple exposures, from property and liability to cyber and more. The Hartford helps companies plan for risk with insurance and proactive risk solutions, so focus can stay where it belongs. Prepare for risk. Protect success. Smart risk management from The Hartford. Contact your agent or visit thehartford.com/risk mitigation.
Hey, how are you? Ready to go for a run?
Running connects us to a rush of energy that flows through our world. The cheers of friends that unlock a new gear within us. The intersection of interests that inspires a run crew. The support that gets you over the finish line. Connection is why we move forward and what inspires us to keep going. Let's run there. Learn more at brooksrunning.com.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix's Remarkably Bright Creatures. What if a Pacific octopus held the key to a mystery that could heal your heart? Well, that's Tova's reality. An elderly widow working at an aquarium. Tova forms an unlikely friendship with the curmudgeonly Marcellus, whose remarkable intelligence leads her to a life-changing discovery. Remarkably Bright Creatures is now playing, only on Netflix.
Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. If you ever miss a segment or want to hear it again, go to WABCRadio.com, go to podcasts, go to minicast, and play back your favorite segment. Let's go to Pennsylvania. This November, there's a governor's election. On the Democratic side, Josh Shapiro. On the Republican side, we got Stacey Garrity. Give us the pulse of what's going on in Pennsylvania and how your race is going.
So, John, I think it's going great. Just to remind you, I'm the state treasurer, and it is my first stint in public service, or public office, but not my first in public service. So I spent 30 years in the Army Reserve, 3 deployments, all to the Middle East, and I hit my mandatory retirement date in 2016, or I would have never ran for treasurer because serving was and is the honor of my lifetime. We have a governor more interested in Pennsylvania Avenue than helping Pennsylvania families. And it would probably surprise your audience to know that Pennsylvania ranks 38th economically, 39th in education. 7 out of 10 of our 8th graders can't read at grade level. We rank 41st overall. We're a C- in infrastructure. And I could go on, but I won't. I will end on this note, since I am the state treasurer, that we spend $5 billion more a year than what we bring in.
Pennsylvania has been very, very divided. Is there more common sense going on in Pennsylvania than before? Because I understand they wanted, there was some things going on with the counting of the votes, etc. Tell me what you're most interested in to give Pennsylvanians if you were governor.
Well, basically, it's to bring common sense back to Pennsylvania, and there's no way that we should be ranking in the bottom of all these metrics, because Pennsylvania is blessed with world-class industries, with amazing people, and we have natural resources that are the envy of the entire world. So we're squandering our blessings. There is no way that we should rank in the bottom tier, but it's really not just a Pennsylvania issue. It's a national issue, because you don't want those failed policies to come to your backyard. So right now it's an all-hands-on-deck mission.
Now, who controls the 2 legislative bodies in Pennsylvania now? Are the Democrats or Republicans?
So in the state house, the Democrats have a 1-seat advantage, so it's 102 to 101. And in the state Senate, Republicans have a 2-seat advantage. So it is very tight. And Josh Shapiro has said that he wants to flip the entire state blue. So he wants the trifecta. And he's also trying to flip 4 congressional seats.
And how many seats are up? How many seats are up this November?
So on the Republican side, there's 8. And so 4 are vulnerable.
So it's very close. Now, let me ask you one more important thing. There was talk about honesty and dishonesty in some of the voting patterns in Pennsylvania. Is Pennsylvania straightened out now where people, when you vote, that you're going to get an honest vote?
Oh, you know what? There's always going to be some amount of fraud in Pennsylvania. That's why we've been pushing for voter ID, because we want to make it easy to vote but hard to cheat.
And tell us, what is the biggest difference between you and Josh Shapiro?
Well, basically, I have lived my entire, life in service. So service to our nation, spending 30 years in the Army. And this is my first political office. We've broken every single record at Treasure. I've given back $1.2 billion back to people. We've reduced fees in our college and career savings program by $23 million. And our ABLE program, for our program for people with disabilities, we're 5th largest in the nation. So basically, we broke every single record. Josh Shapiro is a career politician. And honestly, he's more interested in Pennsylvania Avenue than helping Pennsylvania families. So his eye is off the ball. And that is why I believe that we're failing as a state. And it doesn't have to be this way. I mean, Pennsylvania has led before. We're the state that sparked a revolution. We're the state that powered the Industrial Revolution. We are the state that built the American working class. But you know what? We've led before. We should lead again. And leadership matters, accountability matters, and putting Pennsylvania families first matters.
And that's the important thing. And the other thing that's important, because I live, we have a lot of businesses in Pennsylvania. I live in New York. The quality of life. Do people feel safe, or they feel safer in Pittsburgh versus in Philadelphia?
Oh, my goodness. So I would say both areas are very challenging right now. So, parents want safe communities, and they want to know that if their kids are out in the playground, they don't have to worry about crime or being shot at. And there's also so many drugs in Kensington and the Philadelphia area. So very sad state of affairs.
Well, thank you so much for coming on this Sunday to the Cats Roundtable. And I look to catch up with you again real soon. And we want common sense to prevail in the state of Pennsylvania.
We do. Thanks, John. Always
you.
great to talk to you.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Lou Katsos, a real estate professional, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, and he loves history. Well, Lou, we were talking the other day, and you had a few things in mind. So tell us what you have on your mind on Mother's Day.
Okay, on Mother's Day, John, in this particular time period, we're talking about the 221st anniversary of the Battle of Derna, which took place in 1805. It was the first battle that America fought overseas and actually won. It was the first overseas battle. So it was a dramatic episode in the history of the United States. And let me explain why. It related to the first Barbary Wars. For those who don't know about American history in general, America fought battles overseas called the Barbary Wars. So the first Barbary War took place from about 1801 to about 1805. And the reason why they had the Barbary Wars was because the Mediterranean Sea for centuries, John, was shaped by the Barbary states of North Africa. They included what is now Libya, Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco. And they were semi-autonomous states within the Ottoman Empire. And these rulers demanded tribute payments from foreign nations in exchange for safe passage of merchant ships that were traveling through the Mediterranean. Now, America, when it won its liberation, did not really have a navy, etc. It was protected by England before 1776. But after that, the Barbary pirates, starting in the late 1790s, started to ask the Americans for tribute. And, John, this may be shocking to many people, but 15 to 20% of the total U.S. federal revenues at that time period was connected to payment of tribute, ransom, gifts, and naval arrangements involving the Barbary pirates. So what they did was, if you didn't pay, they would capture your ships and they would enslave your people. So American captives were actually enslaved in slave markets, forced labor, diseases, etc. And in some cases, these Americans were held for 10 years or more for ransom. And when the Barbary pirates wanted to raise the ransom price to Americans, Jefferson said, screw you, basically. And that was the declaration of war against the Barbary pirates. So in this particular battle that I mentioned, in the anniversary, John, the 221st anniversary, which is right now, America, with the Marines, basically also incorporating Greek mercenaries and some Arab regional allied fighters, met in Egypt and basically crossed the desert into Libya and fought that particular battle. And that's where you get the famous song, the famous Marine Corps song and the phrase, "To the shores of Tripoli." And they won the battle. There were American ships also outside of the fortifications of Derna, which were firing shots while the Americans and the Greeks basically invaded.
I bet you 95% of Americans don't know what the shore. They all sing the shores of Tripoli, but 95% of the Americans probably don't know what that's all about.
Yeah, not only that, John, it really relates to what's happening today. You know, in other words, historical importance and modern relevance. For example, the Barbary Wars carried enormous symbolic importance to the United States, and they demonstrated that America could no longer submit indefinitely to coercion abroad and was prepared to defend its commerce, sovereignty, and national honor through military action. Now, when you look at what's happening, for example, in the Straits of Hormuz, okay, where you have modern tensions involving Iran and revolve around the ability to disrupt or control one of the world's most critical maritime corridors. In other words, roughly 20% of global seaborne oil and natural gas through the Straits of Hormuz. It almost seems a similar type of situation. So the question is, you know, like 200 years ago, would the United States tolerate coercion against international maritime commerce, or would it use military power to defend freedom of navigation?
So when we're talking about Hormuz, we should start. We will have a song in the future for the Marines called, to the shores of Hormuz.
Well, yeah, John. Yeah, people don't understand it. They're talking about a couple of months or so, or even more, of gas prices being higher, etc. Not understanding, many people don't comprehend. The ability of others later on to have missiles with nuclear warheads that could target the United States and kill ourselves, our children, and our grandchildren. In other words, people are complaining, telling America not to get involved, etc. Meanwhile, not understanding that these are significant things that could wipe us out. So, to a certain degree, I have to say that what is taking place right now by the United States, in my personal opinion, I approve of it, quite frankly. We cannot allow people to have nuclear weapons, to have terrorism, and they're basically terrorists. The government people are terrorists, not the people themselves in Iran. But the government of Iran is a terrorist, country. There's no doubt about it. The largest, creator of terrorism around the world. And they have to be stopped. And I think what Jefferson did was a positive thing and the moment in history this particular week.
So President Jefferson and President Trump will stand side by side from the shores of Tripoli to the shores of Hormuz.
That's correct.
Thank you so much for coming on this Mother's Day Sunday morning, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break.
I'm Livy Dunn, All-American gymnast and Viore athlete. When you travel and train as much as I do, you find happiness where you are. On the mat or on the sand, movement and comfort are essential. That's why I live in Performance Joggers by Viore. Made from DreamKnit fabric that's made of 89% recycled materials, effortlessly soft and made to move as much as I do. My happiness starts here, in the softest joggers on the planet. Get 20% off your first purchase at Viore.com/Libby. That's VUORI.com/LIVVY. Exclusions apply. Not only will you receive 20% off your first purchase, but enjoy free shipping on U.S. orders over $75 and free returns. Go to Viore.com/Libby and discover the full versatility of Viore clothing. Exclusions apply. Visit the website for full terms and conditions.
Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. Dr. Peter Michalos is going to tell you, how can we live to be at least 100? Well, Dr. Peter, what's the tips of the day?
Well, today, John, we're going to talk about the exciting and amazing developments in medicine in 2026 and the things that are around the corner. For example, one of the biggest diseases that Americans deal with and worldwide is heart disease and strokes, and there's some new medicines. For example, there's one blood test called the LP-little-a, and that's the cholesterol, that's the sticky one, the tiny one, that penetrates and forms the plaque and inflammation and increases your risk of heart attacks, especially those who have a genetic predisposition. And there's a new technology, a new medicine coming out called paclitaxel, and it's called antisense therapy. And what it does, it goes to your liver and it blocks the production of this LP-little-a, and that's going to end up saving a lot of lives. And the other one, which we already have, are called the PCSK9 inhibitors, like Praluent and Repatha, and they are able to lower the cholesterol dramatically, and the LDL and the apolipoprotein, which is another big marker that you should check when you're checking out your heart. And that one was actually developed initially by George Yancopoulos at Regeneron, and that medicine has been shown to actually reverse blockages, reverse the plaque. And I told one friend who 2 years ago started taking it, the doctors was surprised that his scan showed that his plaques had actually reversed, so anybody on heart stents should probably be on one of those PCSK9 inhibitors. And the other great thing that came out of Regeneron and George Yancopoulos is that they have developed this mouse called the Velocimune mouse that mimics the human immune system. So they give it a disease like they gave it to Ebola, and they were the first to make antibodies against Ebola. And during COVID, they also made the amazing medicine for COVID by giving it to the mouse and then generating antibodies against that specific variant of COVID. And a lot of us who got COVID were able to get that, including the President of the United States. That's the IV antibody that he got. So it is pretty amazing. There's also now people who get anaphylactic or allergic reactions. You always had to get that emergency epinephrine shot. There's a new oral pill coming out, Anaphyllin. It's the first oral epinephrine for severe allergic reactions, which is a very big deal. We're also got a new medicine for breast cancer for people who have a certain gene mutation called the ESR1. For women with breast cancer, it's called Camizestrant, so that's amazing. And also the cancer vaccines that are coming out, that basically you're going to go for your biopsy, and if it's cancer, they're going to send it to the lab, and they're going to look at the keys on the surface of your specific cancer and make a vaccine customized just for your cancer. And that type of immune therapy is going to be amazing. It's already starting to be used in melanoma, which is very exciting. And then, of course, the testing and the early diagnosis, the liquid biopsies, like the blood test that can spot tumor DNA just on a simple blood test like the one from CancerGuard. Those are the makers of Cologuard, which I recommend. Everyone who's afraid of getting colonoscopy, you just send in a poop sample and you can analyze with Cologuard to see if you have colon cancer, and that's amazing. And also we're going to hear a lot about AI, because AI is changing medicine, because AI, as you say, is only as good as what you feed into it. But for CAT scans, MRIs, ultrasound, and reading your lab work, it is pretty amazing. And they found that it actually reads the MRIs and scans sometimes better than the human. And in one study, they found that it picked up early pancreatic cancer better than the human eye. And now with things like Grok and AI, you can just take a picture of your labs and your reports, and then you ask it to give you an analysis.
That is
It
amazing.
It gives you and it gives you a diagnosis.
But let me ask this silly question. All the doctors we have in the world, some of the doctors got an A in when they graduated, and some of the doctors got a D. I mean, how do you know which doctor to go to?
Well, the issue, John, is more about now that most of the private practitioners are no longer around, and it's moved into a model where they work for some larger entity or some hedge fund, and they only have 15 minutes with you, and you're not going to get this kind of care. And sadly and unfortunately, you have to sometimes be your own doctor, be prepared, do this stuff before you go to the doctor with those 15 minutes, show them what you found, show them your report. And sometimes you have to pay for private concierge medicine, or unfortunately that's the model where people have to, find a private doctor. Otherwise, you're not going to get the time of day in this new model where they have to see 40 patients a day. And if you can do things in advance, like I did genetic testing to find out what medicines I was likely to benefit from and which ones would be toxic. And I found out just by doing it on my own. But then I can show it to my doctor, hey, I can't take this medicine or this medicine because it'll interact, and here's my genetic testing. And the other thing we're going to see more about to help people is telehealth, and there'll be inexpensive telehealth services where, for example, if you're a cardiac patient, they can monitor you remotely, or if you're pregnant, they can monitor your pregnancy remotely, or some of these watches now can pick up whether you have an arrhythmia or you're having AFib or some heart problem, and it can notify you, and you can notify your doctor right away. So these are exciting things, but of course, with the good comes the bad. Also, some of these new weight loss drugs are amazing, like Zepbound for sleep apnea, losing weight, fatty liver, and that's helping a lot of people. But there's also a risk. 1 in 10,000 people now are presenting with vision loss, and there's like 7,000 people now who've gone stone cold blind with non-ischemic artery disease of the eye. And, those are some of the problems. And there's also now a bunch of lawsuits because it slows down your intestinal mobility, and some people are getting intestinal obstruction, blocking the instruction. That's also like 1 in 10,000. So there are a lot of positive things, but we also have to watch out for the long-term issues. That's why I wrote in my book, The Death of Aging, I said, add years to your life and life to your years, and that's why you have to keep listening for more interesting health tips. And also we're on TikTok at Death of Aging, and Instagram to get some of the updated information before the new book, The Death of Aging, comes out.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Peter Michalos, and let's catch up again real soon.
Thank you, John, for always getting the truth out on the Cats Roundtable.
The Cats Roundtable.
Well, every Sunday we have Lynn Shaw, linswarriors.org. Lynn, what do you have this morning?
Well, first of all, John, we have to start with wishing all mothers a very happy Mother's Day. Mothers are warriors, and they're at the front lines of protecting children. So today's conversation is one that matters. As we celebrate Mother's Day, we are asking all Americans to rethink what it means to honor mothers in 2026. Lynn's Warriors is calling on families across America to join us in a powerful bipartisan effort on Capitol Hill this Tuesday, May 12th, 11:45 a.m., with survivor parents, advocates, and leaders who will gather alongside Senator Marsha Blackburn for our rally for online safety. And the mission, John, is very simple. And
now,
urgent.
is Marsha Blackburn, she's in the U.S. Senate. Is she running for governor?
She's absolutely running for governor, but right now she's still in the Senate. And she has been, her history with child safety is without peer. She has fought alongside everybody, bipartisan, and brought pieces of legislation to the forefront, such as, John, our Kids Online Safety Act, which she co-sponsored along with Senator Richard Blumenthal. And, John, we're going into our 5th year of working on the Kids Online Safety Act. So, we're urging Congress, we're urging Senate to let's go, because Senator Blackburn will not be there fighting for us, in the next Congress. This is very urgent. We want our Senate version passed, not this watered-down right now House version that they went ahead and changed the language without telling people, basically, and it means nothing. We need the Kids Online Safety Act, which, John, it's common sense. It's asking big tech, step up. You know, if you see something, take it down. It's like nothing, you know, like incredible. If people, you know, say to you like, oh, there's an image or there's language and they're reporting things, you know, when they say report things, John, it goes nowhere. Nobody answers you at these big tech companies. We have to think of this as, you know, not politics as usual. We're going to be on the Hill for the second time with parents who have lived through the unthinkable, turning their grief into action. And they're all asking one question, along with all of us. Washington can no longer ignore it because we're just going to keep showing up on Capitol Hill and making noise. We will choose children. This is what we want, you know, Congress to say. They're going to choose children, or they're going to continue protecting big tech. And the rally is about a national call to action, urging them to pass this legislation, and they must prioritize child safety. It seems so reasonable. We're tying it to Mother's Day because protecting children, we at the Warriors think, is the most fundamental act of motherhood, and it demands, I guess, symbolic gestures. We're trying everything. We're pulling it all out of our hat, John, to get people to notice and take action. And lawmakers, you know, will join us on the Hill, but they're a little skittish about this, which they shouldn't be, because we believe it's the only true bipartisan action right now.
You got to tell us, lawmakers that are skittish about protecting our kids, and we got to expose their names.
It is almost the entire Congress, I kid you not, because you have to look at the big picture, John, and that big picture is all of this is tied to big tech. All of this is tied to AI, artificial intelligence now. All of this is tied to big tech has so much money. This is the truth, right? They are infiltrating Congress. For instance, we know that Meta, which is Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, they have one lobbyist per every 4 members of Congress, in the ears constantly of the staff, congressional members. Remember, it's like money talks. We all know that. That's the bottom line. So why are they going to step up now and put something out there that demands big tech actually do something, when right now it's the only business, the only thing, John, that's not regulated? Not anything, right?
Now, the big tech people, are they being sensitive, or they only care about money?
You want the truth? They only care about money. Right now, they've not been held responsible for anything at all, because to get out there a little bit, since 1996, when it was kind of the birth of the Internet, there were 2 platforms, and there was something called Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which told the 2 companies, you know what, you're a newsstand, you're a billboard. Okay, John, I get it. Right, we get that. That was 30 years ago, but a lot has transpired. Look, we're living our lives online. Our kids are online. 30 years, and it's never been amended or changed. And we see the predation now. We have the studies. We see what's happening to our kids and our families being ripped apart by addictions to Internet, you know, sextortion, cyberbullying is such a huge problem, kids buying drugs online. So until we sunset this Section 230, right, they're just marching around Washington. They are ruling the roost. And listen, they sit at the dinner table, literally, at the White House with the president.
Well,
and, you know,
come up with the list. Come up with the list that's hurting our kids, and I will get you a full-page ad in the New York Post and list their names.
It is going to be a complete page in the New York Post, because there are loads of names. And we thank you for that, because we want to make Mother's Day count and stand with the parents and stand with everybody, and stand with Senator Marsha Blackburn, who has been so great in working with us for years to promote child safety. So we want everybody to register if you're in the D.C. area. Come to this. Get on a bus, a train, a plane. Go to linswarriors.org. Find out how you register. Just show up. Whatever it takes, contact us.
Lynn Shaw, we're doing this for our kids and our grandkids. Thank you for coming on, and let's expose the bad people in this in our country. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, John.
It's a special day. Today we have Dr. Alveda King, and she's a niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and she's involved in religion. She's involved in, she's a state representative from Georgia. Well, Miss King, today is Mother's Day. What is your vision on today being Mother's Day? What is our kids and grandkids going to be safer in the future?
Well, John, good morning and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmas. And somebody might be saying, well, I'm not a mother. I never birthed a child. And some people have adopted children and didn't have the children from their womb. And most women, not all women, but most women, have helped to mother somebody. And it's important, you know, a neighbor, a friend, a relative, a kind word to a kid who was starving and you made sure they got something to eat. So women of America and around the world, mothers, and those with hearts of mothers that care about people, happy Mother's Day. That's how I feel about today. Now, I birthed 6 children. Unfortunately, I had 2 abortions and a miscarriage, but I birthed 6, and I'm the grandmother of 13 grandchildren. So I'm very excited today. Before you ask another question, did you know Friday the president and the first lady had a Mother's Day luncheon in the Rose Garden, I think, and they had some angel moms up there. I didn't know if people knew about that.
Well, it's we all remember our mothers, and I lost my mom very many years ago. We remember, I mean, I love my grandkids, and I want a better world for them to live in. And I think that could be a special gift to all mothers, that everybody works hard to make sure that our mothers, because of their kids and grandkids, have a better life to come in the future. What could be better than that?
I would agree with you, and maybe every woman is not a mother, but every woman had a mother. You think about it that way. And some of us, you know, you might say, well, I didn't have the best mother or dad or family, and it just wasn't a happy childhood or whatever. I'm so sorry about that if that's the case. However, we today have the ability as human beings. My uncle, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., said we can learn to live together as brothers, and I'll add as sisters, and not perish together as fools. So we can maybe agree that everybody has or had a mother, even if you're not a mother. So that's what's so important today. The world needs more love. A mother's love is marvelous. The only love stronger than a mother's love to me is God's love, honestly. I'll tell you the truth. But love is important, kindness, repentance, and all of that is something that we can all think about today.
Thank you so much, and happy Mother's Day, and happy Grandmother's Day. God bless you, God bless America, and God bless the world. May peace prevail.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. Every Sunday morning, we'll bring you the latest in what's happening in our community, our country, and the world. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a nice Sunday.
77 WABC and Bergen Newbridge Medical Center honor the life of legendary broadcaster and our friend, Ernie Anastas.
Hi, it's Ernie Anastas. You know, your thoughts can affect how you feel. Bergen Newbridge Medical Center is the largest hospital in New Jersey, providing comprehensive, equitable, compassionate, and high-quality emergency inpatient and outpatient medical care, plus mental health services and substance use disorder treatment. The Bergen Newbridge team can address your total health needs in one convenient location. Call 201-225-7130 for an appointment or newbridgehealth.org.